Here we are, first week in March, and there's already 99 murders in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And that number is outpacing New York, Chicago, all the major cities. So we got major problems in Philadelphia. And then you look at police officers, and I play hard, but I play fair. And so you've got to think from time to time to yourself, well, they shooting each other. They shooting everybody else. I know good and well they shoot me.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
Jay Street.
And welcome to The Source. Jay, we don't have our counterpart with us today, but once again, Wilmington Police Department is in the press. You know, I'm thinking that maybe one week we can do a show without even mentioning the Wilmington Police Department, but now we have a sergeant who is now under fire for I guess you would call these anti-Asian comments. What's going on?
Well, I think that the city police department is in serious trouble. I think it's coming under appropriate scrutiny that is going to warrant some major changes. I am not at all optimistic that the city will make those changes by itself, but here we are once again. These comments and a long article in the public press about what was on her Facebook page, and this person happens to have been a former spokesman for the police department, happens to be somebody who was in the human relations division for the police department. And the people from Middletown complain, say, well, aren't you a cop? And then Councilwoman Shanae Darby sent the information, the post, to the mayor and to the police chief, and I think was phenomenal. It's not phenomenal, it's just ridiculous.
Right, I was going to say.
It's flat out bat crack crazy.
Yeah.
That the mayor has nothing to say, the police chief has nothing to say, but the FOP says, we're going to work with her through the internal investigation. So, supported by the FAP and the mayor and the police chief, stuck on silent night. But to me, this is bigger than what's set forth in the article. And I'm saying that because before you came to town, the city of Wilmington voted twice, not once, twice, by referendum, that we wanted city employees to live in the city.
Right.
Now, the same people in the General Assembly who orchestrated the resegregation of these schools were opposed to the desegregation order from the inception. They ran through and said, we're going to eliminate the residency requirement for the city of Wilmington. Mayor Baker at the time agreed to 5 years. They were threatening 0. Of course, you know me. I want them to sue in violation of one man, one vote, and let's get it on. But this person lives in Middletown. And remember, you don't remember, but at the time, the police, the FOP took the position that they didn't want cops to live in the city because the city wasn't safe.
Oh, wow.
And my response, as well as the response from other community leaders, was, well, whose fault is that?
Absolutely.
Y'all the police. But you've got this person living in Middletown, outside the city, thinking they're high and dry, can say what they really feel. And when you say what you really feel, if anybody doesn't think, especially somebody that is in the Human Relations Division, that is part and parcel to helping to train people, spokesperson, and the things that were posted, just outrageous, but the city, the mayor and police chief acting like it's Christmas. And I just think it's outrageous. And here again, it's a consistent pattern of impropriety under this mayor and his designated police chief. He chose this guy. All this is happening on their watch. So,
well, they would probably use the argument that we didn't hire her. But you know what bothers me is that we come on here and we talk about the racism that is found within, whether it be the police department or in some city government. And instead of them immediately attacking this issue, they should have known that people like us was going to say, what do you have to say? And because the mayor has been silenced on this, but yet attacked Trippy, who is an African-American male, for a post that was correct, I have issues with that.
well, they attacked Councilwoman Sinead Darby. They attacked Council President Congo. But it's Christmas time when it comes to this.
Unacceptable.
It's Silent Night.
Yeah.
Silent Night, just Christmas. And they're making a strategic error in judgment because they're not going to get away with this. Let me be real clear. You're not getting away with this. And this is probably the one that broke the camel's back. Because I'm not, when I ran for office initially, something I said I'd never do in 2004, I said, if I don't do anything else, I'm going to speak up and I'm going to speak out. Matter of fact, we had the debate and I said, well, because I had 2 Democrats running against me, I said, if you want somebody that's going to maintain the status quo, you can pick either one of them. You want somebody that's going to speak up and speak out, I'm your man. And I have done consistently what I said I was going to do in 2004, and I'm going to do it now. So this is just, again, a warning shot, but you're not getting away with this.
Yeah, well, but you say you're not getting away with it, but I think that they feel that they are getting away with it because other than the press deciding that they would, and thank God for the press. And I want to take this moment to say, every so often they're reporting the news, and Donald Trump have made people believe that is all fake. But in this case, they were able to report and find. Do you know who? Wasn't it a councilwoman who reported that this woman had made these comments?
Councilwoman Sinead Darby. It's crystal clear.
Right. So she sent this out and they picked it up. But if she brought this as an issue, how come it had not been addressed before it hit the press?
Look, you have to ask the people who call themselves making good decisions. But let me back up. Okay? Because I don't want us to be accused, I don't want to be accused of personally disliking or attacking Mayor Purzycki.
Has nothing to do with
because
that.
I happen to like the guy as a person. I had a fundraiser in 2008, and I didn't know this man. He showed up, supported my candidacy, and then when he ran for mayor and I came in with Dennis and supporting Dennis, he grabbed me and said, "This isn't personal," and I said, "No." And I told him the flat out truth. I said, Dennis has promised me that he will support and help fund the funding litigation, and that's why I'm supporting Dennis, because nobody else was going to do that. But this is not personal. I think he's a good person and has the makings of a good mayor, not for this foolishness. And for him, as bright as I think he is, to continue to let things go, and as I have repeatedly said over the last 2-3 weeks, you made a mistake. Change it, because leadership creates the environment in which people think and do what they think they can do. And this environment and all the things that have been in the public press is indicative of things going in the wrong direction, and it requires a change of leadership.
Yeah, well, first he has to believe that he made the wrong decision, but I tend to believe, and it's not, and I agree with you, I think he's a very bright person. He understands management pretty well. The problem, I think, and he has disagreed with me himself, meaning the mayor, that it's the people around him who is giving him this false sense of security that it's cool. He has John Regal who understands how to handle the press, how to write, and he's letting them give him advice that is just destroying him in our community. And he probably believes, since y'all are saying you believe he's going to run again, he probably believes as long as I got the 8th district, I'll be fine.
Well, in the instant matter, none of those dogs are going to hunt.
Yeah.
None of them hunt for me. And they better quickly realize they're in more trouble now than I think they're going to be able to get out of. And however long it takes. But this is not going to be business as usual. You can't keep on having this outrageous kind of conduct and nothing be done about it.
Yeah.
And we have, since at least September, been asking for relief. And it's obvious when something like this happens and the city goes silent, no relief is forthcoming without it coming from an outside entity.
Yeah, well, I hear you, and I hear even what you're not saying, and I think that that's something that's going to have to happen, because here, again, another article that came up in the paper this week as we transition to it is that the police officer here in Southbridge who threw the guy up against the wall, and he came from Maryland, and it would not have been, to my understanding, the people who had the information that he had other priors before he got here.
Well, he had priors before, and the things that he had done here were ongoing, hadn't been properly investigated, which allowed it to continue. But here again, the whole situation is bigger than that. For example, okay, just like Minneapolis, we have no-knock warrants, okay? And I've been made aware of a situation within the last several weeks where no-knock warrant, more than Wilmington Police, other police agencies involved, but they break in the door and they pull a gun, cursing and threaten the 60-some-year-old grandmother, threaten to shoot her and cursing at her. She had certain medical conditions and forcing her to raise her hands, and worse, drew them guns on her grandchildren. In the house. It found nothing and never presented the warrant. This is the kind of crap, people getting stopped, people getting roughed up all the time with regularity, and they think we don't know about these things, and they do, because at the end of the day, it's only certain people in town that victims are going to call, and usually even if it's not one of us, they call somebody that then in turn calls us, us being members of the NAACP and those of us who have a history of fighting for fairness and specifically addressing police misconduct. So as far as I'm concerned, it's outrageous. There's no relief in sight, but trust me, I don't think they're going to get away with it.
You don't think they get away with it? So we talked about the police officer with the sergeant with the anti-Asian comments. We talked about
but she didn't she had things to say about Black Lives Matter. She had things to say about the virus. She had things to say about Dr. Fauci. And one of the residents in Middletown said, "Aren't you a police officer?" Because
couldn't believe the comments that she was making. Yeah. But that shows you who is calling themselves protecting us. And when the person made the comment that police should not live in the city because it's dangerous, then it shows you the type of mentality they have.
And that's why they moved out. And people don't understand, okay? They let the fire department move out. If we have a potentially catastrophic emergency where you need all the firefighters, some of them live at the beach, some of them live in New Jersey. It'll take 2 hours to get everybody on board. So we better pray that the volunteer fire companies will help us out. That's the kind of predicament that residence requirement has left us in. And all the fundamental unfairness and flat out rottenness that transpired before you ever came to town. And I'm talking about closing and tearing down 2 hospitals. I'm talking about selling the port, destroying the city's infrastructure. The fact that we have no media outlets in the city of Wilmington, no radio station, no TV station. which is why I'm sitting here.
Well, DEL, they say that's the voice, and the news journal is all we need in this state, which is really, like you said, you always use the word
But
fundamental unfair.
The news journal moved off of Orange Street, left the vacant parking lot, and went down there where their employees don't have to pay city taxes. WILM, it closed down. WDEL is up there on Shipley Road, or whatever road that is. And what do we have? And as part and parcel to the school desegregation process, we destroyed the city's infrastructure. We had 10,000 kids in 22 schools in 1978. Today we've got 10,000 kids in less than 10 schools. And when you destroy a city's infrastructure, you destroy the city. And you look at tearing down 2 hospitals in the city of Wilmington versus look at the build-up down in Christiana Care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what people are not paying attention to, and they need to start paying attention to it, because it won't be long before we'll have nothing. You know, you made a comment about maybe we need to this whole residency. I remember now, I've been around for 18 years, but some of the stuff started up, I wasn't really here. But I remember when there was a debate, and that's when Baker was saying, at least give me the 5.
Correct.
So he ended up getting the 5, but I am of the opinion, which is going to be very unpopular, what I'm getting ready to say, that they need to live here. I was raised in a police department where you had to be a resident of that city. How can you serve a people that you know nothing about? That's why we're in the predicament that we're in right now. And I don't know whether we need to go ahead and start some legislation, speaking to our reps, and start doing some lobbying where we can then start voting people out of office or getting people out of office who cannot pick this issue back up. They need to be here. I have police officers who live where I live at, from the city of Wilmington. And there's no disparity or limit, but how do we make our city better? How do we become better if no one is living here? If the city is unsafe, then that means we need to find people who can make it safe, but you got to be a part of it. I cannot teach
if you ain't part of the solution,
you're part of the problem. I taught my daughter how to swim, but I had to get in the water with her. In order for her to swim as well as she swam today, I had to be in the water with her. I couldn't say do this, do that from the sideline. And you're right, if you're not a part of the solution, you are very much a part of the problem. So this is why we're having this issue. And I was shocked to hear you say, and I didn't know that part about the fire department. I thought they all were residents. It was just the police department. But it's just so much going on. And the FOP is running this city.
No, the FOP is running the state.
Well,
okay,
yeah.
And that's why the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights that Kobe keeps pressing on, that you keep talking about, that's why it won't pass, okay? Because as I have said repeatedly, since the shooting of Lamont Moses by the county police for far too long, the police have been in charge of the government instead of the government running the police. And we have to reverse that.
Yeah, and right now it's a lot of talk, but it has to be put into action, because we're going to keep having these problems. Our community is in decline more now than even before. And I think some of the things that we're talking about today, when we're bringing up the Wilmington Police Department again, and we're talking about the internal people who had the folks in Middletown not, well, Darby did share that this was going on, but look how silent it was until it hit the press. I think we're going to have to start moving in a direction that will be able to address that. Because now we talked about the police, we talked about the fire, but look at what the new Secretary of Education. Now, this may be a better article, I'm not too sure, but the new Secretary of Education is now saying, okay, we want to increase the quality of schools in the city of Wilmington. How does that happen?
It happened because we went in 1978 from being among the most segregated school districts in the country. When the court order was implemented, we went to being one of the most desegregated. And in 1996, when the court order was lifted, we started our way right back through the Neighborhood School Act, through the Choice School Act, through the Charter School Act, to being right back to being among, here again, the most segregated school systems in the country. And the problem now is it's a segregation forever plan. And the state, and I blame all this on Senator Tom Carper. He was governor. He went to Washington, D.C., became a senator off the backs of our children. I got the court order lifted. And what they said was, Your Honor, we're among the most desegregated school districts in the country. Let us be free. And the last page of Judge Robinson's opinion and order says, there's nothing in the record below to indicate that current school officials will return to the segregated ways of their predecessors. And they proceeded. Neighborhood School Act, Charter School Act, Choice School Act, and all these things happened under then Governor Carper, and they also reorganized the Department of Education and took away all the powers of the State Board of Education. So as a consequence, the State Board closed Moyer, State Board closed Reach, but they couldn't touch the failing schools in the Christina School District in the city, and their performance scores of Reach and Moyer were higher than the city schools in Christina. So now we come along, we're going to put them all together, and we're going to provide additional revenue, and we're going to maintain this segregation and hope it works.
And hope it works. So do you think that the plan that they are trying to put together, because I think he says he's doing this at the demand of the governor, do you believe that they're the plan they're trying to put together can work first? Because a lot of times people are aloof.
Well, I've talked to people who I have a lot of respect for, who say it'll be much better, maintain the view it'll be much better than what we have. It has an opportunity to be much better. I liked the way Dr. Holdick ran the Brandywine School District, and it got to the point where Brandywine was doing a much better job than, say, Christina. And he was accessible to the community, worked to the community. So to me, on the one hand, it's segregation forever because people don't understand with the proliferation of private schools and charter schools, which are segregated one way or another. The public school system is a majority-minority school system. So even in the schools in the county, they're around 60% minority when you combine Black, Hispanic, and other minorities. So it's a segregation forever plan, but it's probably better than what we have. And at least somebody other than the untrustworthy Christina School District will be in charge of the city schools, and I think it'll give our kids, at least who attend the schools in Christina, a better shot, and more money always helps. And the governor has promised to build a new school on the east side, which I think is just fantastic.
Where would he build that at?
They're going to build it next to Bancroft, where the current administration building is.
You're right. Okay, that's what I thought it was. Now, that's going to be an elementary school, though.
Well, it's K through 8.
K through 8. All right, because we need a high school here. We say Howard is, but Howard is not really.
Well, Howard, let's you open the door, I'm coming through. The fact of the matter is, Howard, Del Castle, Hudson, and St. George's, those 4 high schools send more city children to college than all the rest of the high schools combined. Okay, so I haven't touched the VOTEC district because that's the only thing that's working. By the same token, VOTEC schools are admission schools. A kid like me who got suspended all the time, didn't have good grades, can't get into VOTEC schools. You got to have a stellar record, you got to be a model child, but that's where they are. That's working, leave the rest of it alone. But if I had my way, we're going to have a high school. We literally gave Wilmington High to the Wilmington Charter School, which only brings in less than a handful of city students, less than a handful of Black students. They need to get the hell out of Wilmington High, and they need to give us back our school.
Well, there are some buildings that are here that is equipped to have a high school. Even the Moyer building is still sitting over there. But there are some places that we can do to do that. I'm just concerned about the kids who are so far behind, yet they're on their way to high school or in high school now. And with this plan that is coming about, I'm glad to hear you say you believe that it can work better. Didn't say it would work to the top of its ability.
But here again, and I'm going to say, we know students are far, far behind. The school districts have more money than they've ever had. They got rescue plan money, CARES money, COVID money, whatever you want to call it. Have no idea how they're going to spend it. They need to cut those classes in half.
I agree with that.
They need to put those children who need small group attention in small groups. If they need individual attention, they need to get individual attention. And they need to bring back the things in the school that make it fun for kids and make them want to be there.
Absolutely.
The extracurricular activities that have been taken away need to be put back. And I'm going to say it again. You know, where's the choir? Where's the glee club? Where's the orchestra? Where's the band at Byard and Bancroft? And for those things not to exist, you don't have a full-fledged school.
Right, absolutely. But you speak of all the money they have now. I am a very strong advocate of smaller classrooms. And that is one of the problems we have now. You know, just this week we've had another fight, 2 fights in our high schools again. It didn't make the papers. It just so happened my members send me text messages and pictures, not pictures, but videos of fights that occur in our schools. And it's the girls and the guys. And I think a lot of the resource that needs to be in the schools are not there. So therefore, we find ourselves constantly in battle, trying to make school a place to hold the children for several hours out of a day, and that's the end of the story. Real learning may not be going on.
Well, but I see that as these children crying out for help.
I heard you say that last week.
And, you know, I have been pushing for intervention specialists, both from the county, and tried to talk city officials into it. They need to start in the schools.
Absolutely.
The first time we knew that there was a potential problem with discipline and behavior and potential crime life going forward was the first time that child got suspended from school. So why don't we intervene where they are? And you've got all these kids in these groups, and you're right, male and female, engaged in this outrageous conduct, but who is there to intervene? Who is there to intervene and help? And what is there present? What is in those buildings that would enable them to change their inappropriate ways and do different things and begin to focus on their future instead of all this foolishness that's going on?
Yeah, well, there is none, and that's what the problem is. And when we took the arts out of the class, out of schools, like you just mentioned, we opened up Pandora's box for some very negative things to occur. We're going to talk about something that we also got wind of, is that the city of Wilmington is laying off. When we come right back. And we're back. Well, as we were going to the break, I shared that we got word that a couple people are being laid off in the city of Wilmington. And I think a part of it is this whole bump system is a part of it. But then the major part is layoff. What's your thoughts?
I have employees complaining about people that they're concerned about being laid off. And I just don't understand why, when the city has more money than it's ever had, we're hopefully on the back end of a pandemic. We've got inflation at 40%, higher than it's been in 40 years, and gas prices at an all-time high. Why are we laying people off in this climate and we have money? It just seems inappropriate, unfair. And if these people were employees during the pandemic and the city building is about to open back up, I think next week or the week after, why all of a sudden is it necessary to lay off? And I understand it may be up to 35 people. Why?
Well, could it be, because they won't respond, I did try to make some calls this week, could it be because of they are cleaning up and trying to make things better?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think it's some type of mischief going on, and my better judgment tells me there'll be a lot of people of color in this particular pool versus the diversity that we know doesn't exist in certain departments. So I just like to know why, when we have more revenue than we've ever had before, why we're laying off people. And I recall back to when I was parks director and there was a demand that we had revenue problems, sold the port, gave it to the state, sold the court, gave it to the state, demanded the departments cut back. But when I cut mine, the city council members at the time had a fit. And the only way Jim Sills got 7 votes was I had to put back 7 votes to pass his budget. I had to put back the positions that I had eliminated, and I don't know where the revenue shortfall is now.
Yeah, but now that you're saying that, then, because I think that's what I'm told they're doing. They are just eliminating positions, and they have this bump system that if you are been a faithful employee, and this according to what I'm reading, is not so much about the union and non-union. You can't bump out of the union or non-union, but that's what I'm told, that if you are 40 years in and you used to, before some legislation was just passed in November. In November, I think it was November of 2021, legislation was passed. It was sponsored by Loretta Walsh, and it was also co-sponsored by Council President Trippy Congo, as well as Darby Oliver Fields Cabrero as well. And what they attempt to do was to make sure that there's no more bumping. If you got 40 years in and a position becomes available, we get rid of your position, they will, for 30 days, according to the legislation, for 30 days, they will certainly pay you at your rate. But then they will also do an assessment to be able to see your skills and then try to apply you to another position. But this is the problem I'm having with that little piece. If you do not have a position, I'm making $40,000 a year. You only have a $20,000 a year job. How do I survive on that?
Well, but in the instant matter, how do you survive off unemployment with 35 people?
Yeah.
If it's that many people, and there are those who would make the argument that bump is unfair, and there are those who make the argument that you're protecting people who may not be the best employees in the merit system.
Right.
So there's
Right.
I think good argument on both sides of that situation. But I'm gonna go back to, I just don't understand, if we need the people, when people are working out of the office, working from home, if we need the people working during the pandemic, now we're opening the city building back up, why are we laying people off?
Because maybe the jobs that's open does not pay what the jobs that that they were moving out. I think one of the departments I think they got rid of was the 311. That's a department, isn't it?
Well, the 311 is where you call and you get assistance, and you can pay bills by phone, but you can also talk to somebody. And I thought that they were, the experience I've had, outstanding experience with 311. I know people who've had not good experiences, but at the end of the day, if it's doing working hours, you could usually talk to a person as opposed to a recording, even though you have to go through the steps. But somebody has to work those calls, and some of the 311, it's my understanding, and now I'm recalling, we got some complaints because people were answering the phone who weren't even in the city. They were somewhere else and had no clue as to what somebody in the city was talking about. So they were being manned from other places. So we've got part of that going on too.
Yeah, it's just so much going on, and I guess I'm gonna try again to reach out to the city council to get an understanding of, do they feel now that they have voted on this just last year, last session, in 2021 in November, do they feel that it's servicing what it needs to service? Because whenever I see Loretta Walsh's name at the top of a legislation, I get nervous. I do. I'm just going to be straight with you. I get nervous because she only have one constituency in mind. And I give her credit for her district that she lives in, because that's the only people that I feel she cares about.
But she cares, and she's a leading vote getter at large throughout the city.
She is. She is. But does that make it right? Because I think sometimes we equate that with the fact that it's very difficult to be the incumbent. When people are familiar with a name, they tend to just vote. And then we don't always vote as we need to. So it's not that I can name legislation she wrote that was very damnable to black people. So because she gets all the votes doesn't mean that even the black people know what they're voting for. Because she know how to send a chicken sandwich to you.
Well, the fact of the matter is, in the comments about all the crime, she specifically mentioned the fact that the kids start out attending crummy schools. Well, when I was Parks Director and running the Coalition Save Our Children as a volunteer, trying to save the city's children, trying to eliminate the school desegregation order from being lifted, she had a fit when Jim Sills hired outside counsel to help with that. Had a fit that I was involved in it. And I'll never forget, this is what she said about me. Right now, he's wearing two hats, and neither one of them are fitting very well. So where were you, and what was your position when we were at a critical juncture as it relates to the education of our children? You were simply anti-Sills and didn't care about our kids. So don't come 20-some years later talking now about crummy schools when the city as a city has not lifted a finger to help these children since the January 9, 1978 school desegregation order was implemented, and the only time they moved was when the Coalition Save Our Children, we're all volunteers, asked them to move, and then it was a battle.
Yeah, well, you said, where were you? Let me just say this to you. You talked about the Sills black, so quite naturally she was anti-Sills. She was anti-Williams, but she was anti a little bit Governor Baker, because Baker understood how to play the politics with her. She went against them.
Sills versus Baker, she chose Baker.
Right. Well, quite natural. And he had his 3 terms, but I don't want to get into that. I just see now that everybody is, your favorite line, it's Christmas time for a lot of people, or they're speaking up on issues that are safe. But I just think that when I saw this legislation, I wonder if they had one thing in mind as opposed to just, now there are some incompetent people who work in positions for 30, 40 years. And we need to be able to address that through the personnel process.
But the merit system protects those people.
It does.
Because the merit system protects you solely on the basis of seniority.
But let me say this to you, when I went to Delaware State.
So not being able to bump into the merit system, that's one thing. But when you've got incompetent people or people who are just not performing well in the merit system, you can eliminate their position and they'll go get somebody else's.
Right, but the point is, then don't do the eradication of it. Then you do, like when I first went to Delaware State to serve as dean of students in there, I was very clear. I was not a part of the union, I was part of the administration. They were heavy unionized. But I documented and I removed and have won and I'm saying this on the air so that those who were around on that time can verify it. When you document, you remove incompetence. No, you don't mess up systems that is designed as a safety for those who are competent and make a decision based on the few who personnel may not have been strong enough to document so that this person can be removed. Everybody can be fired.
Well, people who have had good union representation, people who have had the wherewithal to hire good lawyers, regardless of what their evaluation said, have been able to prevail and continue working.
You know why? Because of incompetence in the management. So, but I don't believe you make a rule and hurt the innocent.
But I'm gonna go back to the instant matter. Why are we laying off?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. We ain't got no money.
We got plenty of money. You got more money you ever had.
Well, they have to use the grant money for the next couple of years that they took from the housing. Say, hey, just hold that money because I ain't got no money to pay you for what I did wrong for the last grant money. What do you mean we got money?
Well, now, see, you want to open that back up, and if you want to make me mad at work, because we got people, you walk out here right now, okay, go to the train station, go down by the Mission, got people sleeping on the street. They'll be fighting. Not fighting, but they're staying there all day so they can get into the Mission at night. We got people sleeping on the street, but we turned around and $446,000 was misappropriated, and now you got to pay that back, and you're going to pay that back by saying it's okay to take $148,000 a year from the grant.
But look what they did too. I'm told. I don't know the facts of this, and you can cut me off and say that ain't true. I'm told they even gave the county money to support their center over there when they can do some things right here. Right over here in Southbridge, there's a public housing there. They can fix those up and put some of these individuals in them and manage them.
Well, you're part right and you're part wrong.
Okay, let's hear that.
Because I raised this at council meeting Tuesday night and made it real clear that I was upset about us taking. I mean, I was elated that we had received the money when I first found out about it. Then I found out about the $446,000, and I'm like, the city's laying off, and this money's been misappropriated. They're not going to be able to service, and now they're giving us $1 million. I don't want to be complicit in the city's mischief. And so I said, I think we need to get this money back. There are those that disagree, and then finally I got called and said, wait a minute. First of all, we need the money. Second of all, a very large percentage and the money was given to us for emergency shelter. A large percentage of the emergency shelter is with city residents or whose last address was in the city of Wilmington. And the city doesn't really provide a lot of resources for emergency shelter. We do. We being the county, we think we do a good job at it, and evidently the city agrees, so they gave us the $1 million because we've never been non-compliant. And we know what we're doing.
I hear you talking. Look, we're going to come back, but what I want to do is I want to talk about what happened in Philadelphia. A police officer has been terminated because he shot a young boy in the back, and we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to do a little bit of Kobe Corner without Kobe. We'll be right back.
There's so many women that have gone before me and have taken to the sky.
Do you think there is a need for women in space?
Well, is there a need for men in space?
All these women have been my role models and my inspiration, and I couldn't be here today without them.
Özlem Türeci is the woman behind a leading COVID-19 vaccine.
Women bring an energy to rap that did not exist before.
And the Grammy goes to Cardi B.
Who knows how many others could have been the first if they'd had the chance to try.
Pattern Beauty is launching.
I'm the first person in my family to start a business.
Let's talk about some glass ceilings being shattered.
Jugo Dubai summited heights no woman before her had reached.
We can show girls that anything is possible. It doesn't matter what they look like or where they come from. They can change the world.
And we're back. Well, what I wanted to do is look at what happened in Philadelphia, and I want to talk to you about it. Look at this real quickly.
The Philadelphia police officer who shot and killed a 12-year-old boy has now been fired. The officer, who has not been publicly identified, shot Thomas Siderio in the back last week. The Philadelphia police commissioner says evidence shows the boy was running away after using a stolen handgun to shoot into a police car with 4 officers inside. The commissioner says the fired officer used excessive force, but would not say whether the boy was still holding the gun when he was shot.
After seeing that, tell me your initial thoughts.
Well, there's no justification for a police officer shooting a child or anybody else in the back.
Okay.
So determination is, in my opinion, an appropriate step in the right direction. But who put that gun in the hands of this 12-year-old child?
Yeah.
That person needs to go to jail too.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you got a 12-year-old and somebody having the unmitigated gall to put a gun in the hands of a child and then have that child shooting at police officers, it's outrageous. And those adults who continue to put these guns in the hands of our children, they need to go to jail.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you 100%. When I saw that, I felt, I guess the adrenaline of, and I'm not making an excuse for why the cop shot the kid in the back, because that is very clear. The kid was running away, but I guess they didn't want him to get away. But the point is, you don't shoot nobody. Forget about the child.
But they're going to take the position that he was a threat and a danger to others because he was shooting at us. And that may stop them from charging him. But he should be charged because you shoot somebody in the back, it's murder.
Well,
but when you put that gun in that child's hand, no, you need to go to jail right then, and that person needs to get from here on to now on.
Do you think there's going to be an investigation of how the child got the gun?
There'll be an investigation, but can you trust the investigators?
I can't. Let me ask you this. There are some who are reporting that when they found the body of this young man, they did not see a gun. Now, there's reports that he was shooting, but they didn't find a gun.
But the fact of the matter is somebody was shooting. And obviously the holes in the glass being shattered in the police vehicle and the holes in the police car speak for itself. But somebody was shooting. And so they had a responsibility to respond. But unless that child had stopped and turned around and aimed something at that cop,
there's a reason.
The use of deadly force is just not justifiable, and it's outrageous.
Yeah, and the reason why I raise that to you is because when you hear things, you don't have, it has not been proven by our research that he did not have a gun, but it has come up several times that they did not find a gun on him or near him when he was shot. It could have been very well somebody else shooting and he started running. That's why, I was more outraged that we don't even know if he's the one who did the shooting or not. But he is running away, and I think the policy, the police department policy is that you don't shoot people running from you, shoot people who are coming at you.
Yeah, just like here, you don't shoot at moving vehicles, but they didn't do anything about that here, did they?
No, they didn't do anything about that. I don't know what's going on, but our communities, whether it be Philadelphia, Delaware, wherever, is just really under siege, and the police officers are too. I'm not going to sit here and act as if, they got it easy. There are some hardworking, law-abiding police officers who find themselves in tough situations, but you got to be able, if your life is not in danger, to let your adrenaline get you to a point where you shoot up a person. I want to stop using the word child because it could have been an adult. Without that person as being any longer being a threat to you.
Look at,
is a problem.
Here we are, first week in March. And there's already 99 murders in the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And that number is outpacing New York, Chicago, all the major cities. So we got major problems in Philadelphia. And then you look at police officers, and I play hard, but I play fair. And so you've got to think from time to time to yourself, well, They shooting each other. They shooting everybody else. I know good and well they shoot me.
True. But if in most of the cases that you find of outrage is when they're not even pointing at you, they're just and you cannot assume that a person is shooting at you without you being able to see them coming at you. That's why I raised that. Now I don't want nobody to think that I'm trying to give an excuse for this kid who had no business even having a gun. 12 years old. That's mesmerizing by itself. But I just have issue with sometimes we react too quickly, and out of our frustration and anger, we react. And that's why I'm bringing that to the front.
But, you know, I go all the way back now to my childhood. And I was not a model child, spent way too much time on the corner. But Judge Williams had good cause to represent me in family court, and he made it crystal clear that running was not a crime.
No, it's not.
That historically and traditionally, when young people in the inner city see police coming, they flee.
Right.
That's what we did. And, you know, I don't think anything's changed since the 60s when I was a child. And that's the way it should be looked at now.
Okay.
Running is not a crime.
Absolutely. And that's all I wanted to make sure we did touch on as well. Now, Kobe is not here today. He's out saving the world, as he always does. In his area, I
believe the children are the future.
Teach them well and let them lead the way. I hear you. For the civil rights area, there was a pamphlet that was sent out to several residents in the state, urging. They had on there. They had Al Sharpton. They had King III. They had a pastor from, I think he's from Middletown or somewhere up there. I don't know him at all, saying that Governor Carney needs to follow the lead of President Biden by diversifying the courts. First, I was concerned of how it got there, but you have any thoughts on that?
Here's the harsh reality.
Okay.
You look at the position that we took with Senator Brown and his removal from the Judiciary Committee.
Okay.
One appointment to Delaware Supreme Court, African American, female.
Right.
An appointment to the courts in each county, African American. So before folks come running in here from out of state, they need to come in and do their homework and look at this man's record. Now, if there's a particular court where they have a particular problem, then so be it. But the fact of the matter is, just as we gave accolades to Senator Brown and his leadership, well, the governor made those recommendations. Now, we took the position that he may not have made those recommendations if Senator Brown hadn't been sitting there, but he was and he did. So, you know, there's 4 that I know about.
And
on his watch.
And within the last 2 years.
Correct.
And I think that that's very important, because one of the things I don't want to become is whenever somebody pops into town or some special interest group who want to start up something and don't have all their facts together. And I just knew that, you know, during the time when Senator Brown was serving as Judiciary Committee chair, they were flooding in. They were flooding in, and we were very grateful for that. And I'm not sure, but I did see the leaflet, the pamphlet, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm just hoping that that people would have looked at it and said, you know, it is what it is, and we move on.
Well, I'm gonna leave it at that.
You gonna leave it there?
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Whatever Jay Street say he gonna leave something, we're gonna leave it. Got one more thing in the Kobe corner. Even though I'm not Kobe, but I think he would appreciate this. What's going on in Ukraine right now is just inhumane. It's just inhumane. And I want to say to all of you who are watching us today, we must focus. We live in the greatest country in the world. We have the most freedoms in the world, yet very racist. We reported last week how the black and brown people who were even in Ukraine were treated and mistreated when trying to escape from the bullets that were flying. But what I don't want you to do is lose your humanity. I think Putin is just
back crack crazy.
Back crack. You called it. I call it soulless. Biden's assessment of him was totally correct. He doesn't have a soul. The things he's doing. How do you bomb a maternity ward? How do you do that? How do you bomb nursing homes and then say, that's just the way it fell, that wasn't our target?
Well, you know, you look at it and I'm reminded of the movie that Wesley Snipes starred in when the elder in the community wanted to kill him and said, your soul is wanted in hell. And that's where we are right now. And, you know, to kill people, innocent children, number one, you're using missiles. Number two, you've cut off the electric, you've cut off the water, you're starving them, you're freezing them. And I think it's going ultimately backfire on him. I think he's going to lose his regime. Even people who have kind of been trying to stay out of it are backing away now. It's my understanding, looking at the news earlier, that OPEC may open up the oil, and so that some of these gas prices will go down. But it's just inhumane, and the Vice President said earlier that it was just unimaginable what he's doing, and I'm just thinking about the old man, your soul is wanted in hell, and but I feel so sorry for those people. And then we got a basketball star.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's been arrested.
Yeah.
And we're not going to see that little girl until this war is over or Putin is gone.
Yeah.
And I was looking at a parent this morning, early in the day on CNN, saying that her child been in Russia, being held captive for over 3 years. So we're not going to see this little girl anytime soon. And I don't think we're going to be happy about what we see when we do.
Yeah. Do you, if you were the president of the United States, would you open and restrict the air space?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Because the argument that we as a nation are making that you don't want to trigger this madman is meritorious. And he has nuclear buttons. And he can blow things up and kill whole countries of people, and that decision can't be taken lightly.
But we can too.
Well,
and we can kill first, right?
Well, but
I shouldn't be talking like that. But
that's not good for anybody.
It's not. But look at the inhumane.
Well, okay, but just like we did in Hiroshima.
Okay.
He can do it, and I don't think that can be taken lightly.
Okay.
So the answer to your question is that's why I'll never be president, because I don't know the answer.
Okay, I got you. Well, I want to thank you all so much, and we miss you, Kobe, on today. I hope you are able to accomplish the things that you are set out to accomplish for the day, and you weren't able to be with us. But I want to thank Jay Street for his constant support of our show and anchoring with us, and I think this is great. But I ask that you would be mindful of the fact that whatever is happening in your town, you can certainly give us a call. You can just let us know. Not when I say your town, I mean your section of the city, and let us know so that we can try to investigate and bring it to the front. Because at the end of the day, you have to have a voice, and Wilmington does not have a voice for the black community. So we hope that we are certainly providing such resource to you all. This is Pastor Curry.
Jay Street.
See you.